Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty360. I want to welcome you to another edition of Loyalty Live. In this series, we talk to leading agencies, technology partners, and consultants in customer channel and brand loyalty about the technology trends, best practices that impact a brand's ability to drive unique experiences, enhance engagement, but most importantly, drive customer loyalty. Loyalty Lives allows for a deeper insight into the state of customer loyalty as we try to surface challenges that brand marketers are having with regard to their customer loyalty programs. And we use these Loyalty Live sessions as a response to those challenges and opportunities from these amazing leaders in the industry who are driving amazing program results for those in the industry. They understand them and evaluate them in a unique way. So it's great to have their input. We have a small series that we're doing in November and December of 2021 that are going to look at some of the trends and opportunities that we saw at the 2021 Loyalty Expo. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Tom Madden, who is a partner at ICF Next. How are you today, Tom?
I'm well, thanks, Mark. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, as the case may be.
Good afternoon. So first off, Tom, thank you for joining us at the Expo a couple of weeks back. What was it like to be among loyalty professionals again?
Oh, God, it was so nice. I mean, it's, so many of us are used to being out in person with our clients and with our colleagues from across the industry. So it was really refreshing and invigorating, frankly, to be back amongst the colleagues of so many brands and partners. And it was great to see the friendly faces and get back together live to talk about the different areas that the brands are focusing on in loyalty.
Absolutely. There seemed to be a great deal of buzz in the conference, people talking about different topics. What are some trends or topics that you heard or saw as opportunities for brands at the conference?
So there are a couple stood out. The first in particular was around, obviously humanizing or emotional loyalty and the need for brands to reach customers at a much deeper and more meaningful level than at a transactional level. The second one was really around employee engagement and the efforts around employee engagement and how that can tie back into loyalty program success. As the employees tend to be the front line, they really can make or break the strategies put in place for loyalty programs.
Absolutely. And you gave a presentation on emotional loyalty. I actually had the privilege of moderating it. A very engaging, very kind of unique session. Can you talk about what you spoke to during that session?
Yeah. It was the first in the morning, so it was an early session, and I was really pleased with how many people were there and how active and engaged they were. I spoke to the point of view of ICF Next, and that's about moving customers or members along the continuum of what's possible. We call it the active participation curve. That curve starts with general awareness, and through measurable strategies, we help our clients move their customers up that curve through engagement, loyalty, advocacy, and ultimately to where the customer or the member personally identifies with the brand. When they identify with the brand, the relationship is much more than transactional and leads to a greater ROI for both the brand and the member.
Okay, great. One of the things that we kind of talked about in that session is having a process, having a defined process. We did a kind of an industry paper on emotional loyalty, and you were one of the platforms or kind of processes we evaluated. And you guys have a very good program, solid. But I think the key to it is having that organizational buy-in and making brands understand that there's going to be a process, right? You have to stay committed to it, and you have to kind of understand where you are. Have that focus. What's a challenge you think brands have with getting their customers to be more emotionally involved with them?
Well, I think it first and foremost starts with it being an objective. If it's not an objective of the brand, then it's all kind of a moot point. So, but assuming the brand has an objective to try to drive more engagement, more emotional loyalty with their members, then to me, it's about putting a plan together. It doesn't have to be some grandiose, massive plan. It can be as simple as just identifying a few of your member segments and figuring out where they're at today along that curve, for example, and then putting some basic strategies and measurements of those strategies in place as you work to engage and interact with the members.
Absolutely. When you gave the session, there were a number of people that asked some pretty pointed questions. What kind of feedback did you get from those who attended? What were they asking you after the session?
So we had some really good conversations with a number of brands. Their questions were, I think, really thoughtful and generally revolved around how they can work with their member segments to move them along the continuum we talked about. And then a good amount of time was also spent about how they can measure that movement or the success or perhaps the lack thereof as they put strategies in place to move members from less than transactional up through transactional and ultimately to identifying with their brand.
Okay. And if you could give brands one piece of advice regarding emotional loyalty, what would that be?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit a minute ago, but it's to begin the effort. A good starting point is to identify where you're at today. If you don't know, then start with some basic segmentations. Choose a few of the segments who you feel you could benefit from some extra attention in the form of value to them. Identify their current state with you and measure the progress as an outcome of the strategies and tactics you put in place to move them from awareness to awareness and understanding of your brand, ultimately through engagement and loyalty and identification with your brand.
Okay, great. There seem to be a number of good sessions at the conference. Which session topic stood out to you as being most relevant, interesting, timely?
There were some great segments there, but I'll tell you, it's hard for me to pick another one over the one I'm going to mention because it was the keynote speaker. It was the beginning of the day. People had their coffee, just gotten their coffee. They were yawning and just kind of trying to get into gear, right? And I really love the keynote with Justin Patton. He was fun. He was engaging. He was energetic. He was inspirational. It was just what we needed, having not been together in nearly 2 years. It's also how I think we can be with our program's members. They want more than to be just aware of what we can do for them. They want to be engaged. They want to have fun. And just like the keynote from Justin, that doesn't just happen. It takes work, it takes thoughtful plans, it takes flawless delivery. And Justin did just that as he moved the early morning yawning crowd, just because it was in the beginning of the day, through laughter, and people were taking notes, and everybody was fully engaged, and that engagement continued even after he was finished.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great session. I think he had a unique perspective. One of the things that I took from that is, your biggest strength is always is also your biggest weakness. And I think it's a unique way of looking at it, right? Some of the challenges you have with leadership, or just even understanding kind of your role within organizations is, having that strength. And a lot of times it can be a huge weakness, whether it's passion or whatever it may be. Just having that balance, I think that's great. Were there something that you expected to see at the conference that you didn't see, or maybe something that you thought you'd see that you did not?
I guess I was pleasantly surprised around the discussions around employee engagement. We spent a lot of time, and the majority of our strategies and resources on member engagement and member participation. But as I mentioned earlier, some strategies can fall completely apart if the front line isn't engaged in the effort themselves. And so there was some really good conversations around employee engagement in regards to the loyalty process.
Okay. And then the last question I have, coming out of the conference, emotional loyalty obviously is very important. Is there another topic or trend you think brands should focus on, going into 2022?
There was a thin thread that kind of ran across most discussions, either consciously or subconsciously, around the fact that that people's needs, the members and customers' needs, are different. They've changed in such a great amount or a great way from where they were in February of 2020 that everybody has been kind of reevaluating their goals, their strategies, their tactics, and what, really ultimately based on what do the customers or the members need now, and how different those needs look today than they did 18, 19, 20 months ago.
That's great. That's a very good point. And a quick follow-up to that. If there's a realization that customers are different, their expectations have changed, how do you get to understanding that? Because one of the challenges we've always seen is that brands have a challenge listening to and understanding customers, right? They may hear what they say, but it's more passive. How do they truly take some of that in, knowing that there's a difference, knowing that the expectations have changed, and put that into action?
I think first they're going to have to listen to the members, right? So some brands are really good at this. They've been talking to their members throughout. They've been addressing some of the basic needs at the time. You think about tier or status extensions and things like that immediately took care of some of the worries of some of the top members. But continue those conversations because while there's a new normal, it's not a February 2020 normal. It's a
Right.
different kind, and people, are buying differently. They're traveling, if they're traveling at all, they're traveling differently. Everything's so different now that it just requires having conversations with the members to figure this out. And that could be literal conversations. It could be, literally surveys, things like that, or it could just be interacting with the members, even through contact centers and other things that many brands already have in place.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's always great hearing your perspective on customer loyalty, but more importantly, what your thoughts about the conference were and what you saw as kind of the key trends coming out. Obviously, your perspective on emotional loyalty is greatly needed and greatly of interest to the audience. So look forward to hearing more from you for the remainder of 2021 and going into next year. And thank you for everything you do for the industry.
Hey, thank you too, Mark, and Loyalty360. Thanks to all the folks there.
Absolutely. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen today and look forward to having you back on another edition of Loyalty Live next Tuesday. Thank you very much.